Sam Newell flipped a hotel. Yes, he flipped a hotel and he got a lot more than he was asking for, but in the end ended up tripling his investment in under 6 months. He's going to tell us exactly how he did that here on the Fearless Investor Podcast. Hey, welcome into the Fearless Investor Podcast. I'm Kyle Stanley. You're listening to this episode with Sam Newell. I'm excited about this one. Sam's a good friend of mine. He's in a mastermind with me, and Sam is a master at raising money. He's a master at multi-family investing. But this time around, we are actually going to be talking about a really interesting story. There's so many twists and turns in this thing with this hotel flip, and I just want to know what you think about this. So do me a favor, whether you're listening on the podcast or watching on the YouTube channel, comment on this video or write us a review and talk about this episode and what you learned about this. Would you flip a hotel? Would you consider even underwriting a deal for a hotel after all this stuff? I love this story because of the amount of change and positive impact that he had on his community, his neighborhood within this deal. But on my side, I'm listening to all this stuff and I'm like, I don't know if I'd want to take on that deal. So I want to know if you would. So let's listen in with Sam Newell. And again, comment or review here on the podcast or the YouTube channel. Let us know what you learned or what you think about this deal. Hey, welcome in. And I've got an exciting show for you guys today. Sam Newell coming in from Salt Lake City, Utah, a good friend of mine who is in the same mastermind together with me. And it's funny because Sam and I had actually talked about 3 days before COVID all happened. And then once this all went down, I was just like, man, I really want to get something a little bit more fresh for our audience. And he posted the other day saying that he tripled his money on flipping a hotel. And I'm like, okay, I've never talked about flipping a hotel. And I mean, so aside from that too, just tripling your money in such a short amount of time. So I'm really excited to talk about this deal today. But Sam, first of all, thanks for being on the show, man. Appreciate you being on.
Kyle, thank you, man. I'm excited to talk about how we lost a bunch of money 1 month from coronavirus and then ended up cash flowing like crazy through coronavirus and benefited from it actually and sold it and tripled our money. So I'm excited to be on and talk investments, talk cash flow with you.
It's a roller coaster ride right now for everyone, man. But I feel like I know the answer to this question, but what is your most interesting real estate investing story? Let's go ahead and start with that question.
You know, I would absolutely say it's the hotel. I've got some crazy stories from doing joint stings with U.S. Marshals to losing a little bit of money in March and then just making bank on, we actually have taken care of pandemic or I guess coronavirus quarantine people in our hotel, which has helped us cash flow through the pandemic. So anyways, it's definitely the hotel, far and above any other deal I've done.
Well, I don't want to waste a lot of time without getting all the details of this entire deal because it just sounds so interesting. But I do want the audience to know who you are, what you're all about, and what got you into real estate. So kind of give us your story if you can.
Yeah, man, I typically do not buy hotels. It's never been an asset class that I was interested in, mainly because of the management side, not because it's risky, because anything you can buy right is you can mitigate risk, but it's the management. And ultimately, that's why we're selling the hotel, not because it wasn't making us a bunch of money, but because it's super, super management intensive. Plus, it was a very heavy lift value add deal. But I started flipping homes 10 years ago. Before I got my license, I'm a licensed broker in Utah and Idaho now. I've developed fourplex communities with partners. I've sold over 100 homes in 1 year. And, so I'm a high producing agent. Now I'm head of commercial at the Century 21 brokerage where I'm at, Century 21 Everest in Salt Lake. I'm licensed in Idaho as well. And so I sell homes here and there. I sell a lot of investment properties. And I also buy investment properties. So our typical deal, and the thing I get most excited about is kind of the boring, cookie cutter, safe, secure, low risk, high cash flow deals that we do every month. So we're closing this month on 282 doors in Cincinnati. Next month, 124 doors in Atlanta. We're also closing early next month, 30 doors in Albuquerque. Those are all value add, low risk, really fun, just great apartment complexes that we'll buy. We'll put money into fixing them up and then raise the rents and provide really good community for the tenants to live in. better than what they have now and really good returns for us and our investors. So that's what I do now. I split my time between selling real estate, taking care of my clients and investors that way, and then buying these really cool projects across the United States and turning a profit, double-digit returns, Grant Cardone style. I always say the biggest difference, or the only difference between me and Grant Cardone, is I don't fly around in a jet, and my investors make more money with less risk.
There you go. I like that. Well, and if we're watching on the YouTube channel right now, people see behind you Recession Proof. You do have a podcast as well. And you started that pretty recently. It was pretty ironic because like you pretty much got that.
Couldn't have timed it better.
Yeah, you released that literally as we're quarantining and everyone's talking about a recession, and here you are releasing the Recession Proof podcast. How's that going so far?
Oh, it's great. It's funny you bring that up. So in 2018, when I sold those 106 homes, a lot of those were investment properties. And I started to get nervous for my investors because I saw them get really excited and pay less attention to the details and not be as cautious. And it made me nervous as a broker and as an investor, saying, you guys, you need to look at what might be coming. We're at the top of the market. And I wanted a way to teach people and not just teach them from my own voice and my own research and experience, but interview people who have been through the recession. So the main goal of the Recession Proof podcast is to interview people who were investing back in 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then saw the recession come. It hit them. I want to know what they experienced, what they learned, what mistakes they made or saw others make. Because at the end of the day, you should never lose money, ever. There's enough information out there and enough people have done this that you should be able to avoid those type of mistakes. So I've never made less than a 20% return ROI on my investments. And I don't think there's any reason you should if you do it right, if you're patient and you have all the data and skills and strategic partnerships. So that's the goal of the podcast, is to help people really learn and not make stupid mistakes and ignorant mistakes.
I think that matches up so well too with our audience, and just the whole idea behind what we do with the Fearless Investor is to try to take away fear. And there's no better way to take away fear than just understanding your numbers. And you being able to say right there that the least you made is a 20% ROI. That's phenomenal. But I really am excited about this hotel deal. And I don't mean to skip through all the other things. I want people to go to the Recession Proof podcast and subscribe and get all the information there that we're talking about. But this hotel deal is just so interesting to me because I saw week to week as we were getting on our mastermind calls, there was just stress and more stress and more stress. And then to see the celebratory post and getting the kind of ROI you guys did, I just felt so happy for you. And I felt like there's so much to learn from this deal. So let's start from the very beginning. How did a hotel come across your desk, and why in the world did you even want to go for it, being, like you said, an asset class that you're not usually going for?
Yeah, man, really good question. So real estate and anything in life is really a numbers game. If you want to hit big returns and be successful, it's a numbers game. You have to get high volume of calls in, or cold calls if you're in sales, and finding deals for us is a numbers game. So we're reaching out to brokers every single day, property owners, trying to find good deals. And because so many of them they won't work, they're too risky. So for each deal we look at, we do I call a recession test. Some people call it a stress test, but I call it a recession test. So if we buy this deal at this price and a recession comes and cuts out a certain amount of our income, can we survive? Okay. Or am I going to have to call Kyle? You're one of my investors. Am I going to have to call you, if you were one of my investors, and say, hey, I need an extra $5,000 this month because we can't cover the bills? Okay. That's terrible. I would never want to do that. I want to be able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
So this hotel came across our desk just from cold calling brokers, and they were listed at like 1.5 million, absolutely trashed, 96 room hotel, but really cool. Ton of space, has a restaurant space, a pool, 2 bars in it, a dance hall. And during the oil booms, it just printed money, just cash flowed like crazy. But they painted it Smurf blue and absolutely ran it into the ground. I'm talking multiple leaks. When we walked through it, it was October. It hadn't rained in like 2 weeks. The carpet upstairs was still soggy wet. Half the PTAC AC units didn't work. Broken pipes. One of the boilers didn't work. So, just trash. They had bled that thing dry. And to be on top of it, the crazy thing that I learned after the fact, I didn't know this, there was a standing order from the property owner to not allow police on site. The
And
city
do you know why?
police. Yeah, because his cash paying clientele were drug addicts and prostitutes.
Wow.
So we knew there was a human trafficking problem at the hotel. We knew there was a drug trafficking problem
Jeez.
and prostitution problem. And I'm not okay with that.
Of course.
Talk about, I'm a dad, talking about human trafficking. That's why as a property owner, I feel we have the obligation to not be a slumlord.
Yeah.
Because it affects real people. And this owner didn't care. He bought it for $3.2 million, was getting crushed in 2018 after oil prices continued down and the local area wasn't doing well in 2019. And so he just, what the heck with it? Let's not allow cops. Let's keep our cash paying drug addicts and drug dealers in there and at least make some money. And then he doesn't have to pay taxes as much either because he's collecting cash. So all in all, it was a pretty shady situation, really sad. It used to be the number one hotel in the city it was in. The manager, here's a cool story. The manager we hired had her wedding reception there in the 90s because it was the hotel to be at. And it had an amazing bar and lounge. And so all throughout the city when we were there, people were like, oh, you buying that place? Yeah, I used to, have my quinceañeras there, or my daughter's quinceañera, or used to go to that bar and listen to live music. And everyone has great memories, but when we bought it, it was an eyesore. So we actually put it under contract for $500,000. No, 700,000.
Wow. That's nothing.
What's that?
That's nothing. That's great.
Yeah. But man, it needed so much work. We ended up doing our due diligence. They were hiding stuff from us. Keep in mind, they bought it for $3.2 million.
Yep.
We ended up canceling the contract and it sat. And I'm not going to tell you what I bought it for because that's kind of my partner just doesn't want us to share it, I guess.
Okay.
But I'll tell you this: we bought it for less than $500,000. We bought it, 3-4 times less than what they had paid for it. And the crazy thing is, here's the craziest part of this deal: if they had just put $500,000 into it, they could have sold it for $2-4 million because it would have been cash flowing like crazy.
Yeah.
Over half the rooms were down, not even rentable.
Mm.
So these guys were just poor investors, made very poor decisions from out of state. And we bought it and we started immediately on the human trafficking side. We got with the local sheriff, got with U.S. Marshals. We helped them conduct stings. Actually, that was really cool. And I wanted those, bleepity bleeps taken down. I wanted them out of there. And so I went to the city actually right as we closed. And I said, I'm going to set up a surveillance room. I'm going to set up a camera system. I'm going to set up a police substation in the hotel. I'll pay for everything. I just want you guys there 24/7 taking these individuals out. They said no, that I couldn't do a police substation, but they'd at least, communicate with me and we could work together to get those people out of there. We had drug cartel there with AK-47s and pounds and pounds and pounds of coke. We had a lady that we got arrested. We went into her room and one of the books on her desk said How to Be a Cartel Wife. It's an actual book.
Does it have an author's name? I got to know.
I'm sure we could Google it, but being a cartel wife or something. So her goal in life was to become the drug dealer. We found a book of all the drug dealers in that city, and that was really cool evidence to find drugs all over the place. Long story short, we gutted all those rooms. Started doing ID checks. We would run daily checks with the city for warrants and, any outstanding warrants or past offenders that we knew were drug dealers. We wouldn't allow them to rent units based on their, felony history or whatever. And we worked our butts off, man. It was a shit show for a couple of months there, but within about 2.5 months, you would go to the hotel and it just felt different.
Good.
It felt like there was happy, nice, hardworking people There's people with their doors open, hanging out, talking, kids playing on the playground. And it was a dark place before. It was a
Wow.
scary, dark place where I carried a gun and was afraid to sleep there at night because of the people that were prowling. We started buying the police lunches and dinners just to have them come and hang out at the hotel with us to deter any people. So it was a lot of work, but we got it turned around. And then we started working on the units themselves, just making them nicer. And our revenue went way up. We started advertising more. It was too cold to paint. So unfortunately, it never got painted from the Smurf blue, but the new owners they're actually closing on it today. And that's one of the first things they're going to do now that the weather's warm. They're going to paint it gray instead of Smurf blue. But long story short, that's what we did. We were making a huge amount of headway, and then coronavirus hit.
Yeah.
And the busy season was just starting. I mean, there's fairs and conventions coming to town, and everything got canceled. Our occupancy dropped to single digits, which is basically our hotel staff that lives there.
Right.
The only
Yeah.
people staying there. And so we
Jeez.
were paying them to work there, and then they were paying us that money back as rent. So, but then, I reached out to the city, and it was kind of I don't even call it Providence or good luck or a little bit of both. But I said, hey, are there any programs? We had talked to them about housing homeless or, being help a halfway house. And they said, well, we've got all these quarantine people that we're going to need to stick somewhere. So can you take care of them? And I said, well, it's an open corridor hotel, so that's fine. We don't have any hallways. It would be minimal contact, as long as I don't have to expose my employees to that at all. And they said they'd provide hazmat suits, and the cleaners could wait a few days after they clean a room after someone checks out. And then they said, well, we need you to provide meals as well, and three meals a day. And we need you to provide security to make sure none of these quarantine people are leaving the room, unarmed security people. And we self-performed that. And we may need you to provide transportation. And it got to be a thing where I said, well, this is a lot of effort on my point. Am I allowed to make a decent profit? And they said, yeah, you can make a profit off of us. And so we ended up losing a bunch of money in March from not having occupancy, and then turning around to making a huge amount of cash flow. April, May, and now June,
Wow.
we've made a ton of money and didn't have to fire anyone. That was the beauty. Is I have my manager right now, his girlfriend's pregnant. And my other employees, they're cool people. They're really nice, hardworking people. And they were scared. I was scared. I didn't want to have to fire anyone. And so we actually went in the negative in March, just dipped out of our own pockets to pay people. We did get the PPP loan, but it didn't come until late June. So we had to float our employees' paychecks all of March and the first part of April. I'm just glad it worked out. I'm glad it worked out, and we made a bunch of money and paid ourselves back that money that we dipped into our own savings accounts. And now we're selling it for 3 times what we bought it for. And there's a lot of work, a lot of stress, but we're excited to move on to the next investment.
That's amazing. So there's just so many things that I want to point out about this. And I think the big thing here is that you went kind of out of the realm of being a real estate investor and really just being a problem solver. And that's really what real estate investing is, right? And there's no one that when they become a real estate investor is told, hey, you're eventually one day going to have to, bring in the cops to do some stings and deal with quarantine and start to provide meals and security and transportation like you were talking about. But you found ways to get it done. And this is like when I've done things in the past to talk about like what are good investments, it's people like you, Sam, that I want to invest with, because it's like this guy is finding the solution to make sure that the people get taken care of. You didn't fire anyone. You took money out of your own pocket to be able to just keep them afloat. You cared about the lives of people. And I think the bigger thing is you cleaned up at least this building, which I'm sure is in a sense cleaning up the community as well. And so I'm just repeating all that just to commend you mainly because it's like, I mean, this is not, to me, this is not a real estate investment. This is a project for cleaning up the community during one of the toughest times that you or anyone has ever gone through. And you had to figure out a way to get stuff done while still paying your staff and your investors, which like, I got to imagine there were some sleepless nights for you.
That's a really good question. And the caveat is any of the apartment deals we do, we can be 30% vacant and still pay the bills and not have to dip into our own pockets. We actually didn't bring any investors into this hotel deal. It was just me and my partner. We paid cash for it.
Wow.
We purposely didn't get a loan because when we recession tested this hotel, it was risky. We knew we were going to make money. We just knew there would be some hard times if occupancy dropped. And 2 months after we bought it, occupancy dropped. So a typical deal will set aside 6 months of working capital so that we don't have to dip into pockets.
Okay.
A typical deal, we have all these funds set aside, our rainy day funds. This was our pet project that we did. And it's funny you talk about sleepless nights because I deal with stress very well. I just block it out. And because I've been flipping homes, you know how it is. You have
Yep.
real estate investments, you do flips for the last 10 years. There's nothing really that you're not going to benefit by stressing. And
Yep.
so my partner told me a few times that he had sleepless nights, and I felt bad for him. Like, Lyndon, man, I am so sorry. I honestly I don't care what happens. I just know that we'll figure it out because we bought it well. We bought it at a price where we're not going to lose money forever. We're going to be just fine. So it was really interesting how he's maybe done a few less flips, real estate deals than I have, and he was very, very stressed. And I felt bad for him. I'm to the point where I've never made a purchase that was so risky that I would lose the deal or I'd lose a lot of money. I think we only lost 15 grand in March and we more than made all that back in April. So, yeah, it was interesting and pretty stressful. But most of the deals we buy, it was interesting. While the hotel was going crazy ups and downs, our Cincinnati deal was like 97% occupied, 97% rent paid. The Dallas deal was 99% rent paid. We buy these assets that are really good, stable assets. And so knowing that I have all these other deals bought and paid for and cash flowing for me made the hotel way, way better. And I guess maybe if I didn't have those other deals, I wouldn't have done the hotel. But I knew I had these other assets that were super recession proof that would really keep me afloat. And we probably will never do a hotel type deal again. We're getting too big where our time is too valuable to do another deal like that. But it was fun. It was fun, interesting, scary, stressful, and ultimately very profitable.
That's good. And I want to talk about that for a second, because did you know going into it that you were going to just flip it and sell it, or were you thinking
Nope.
this was going to be a cash flow thing for you?
No, we thought we'd hold it for a long time because how low we bought it and how much cash flow potential there is. And the guys that are buying it, they're just set up better. They have like 27 hotels across the US.
Nice.
And what someone didn't tell me, when you buy a hotel, no matter how good your manager is, you're probably going to be a self-managing owner for the first year, no matter how good your manager is. And we had a really good manager at first. She ended up needing to quit and move with her family. But ultimately, that's the reason we sold. We sold because we're making a ton of money, but our time value of money is way more than just that deal. And it's super, super management intensive. So hotels are not going to be our asset class moving forward. Maybe in the future, we'll have a partner that has the systems and employees set up to take down hotels. But our systems and employees and time is right now, our knowledge base is set up for apartments.
What were some things about that deal that you did like? I mean, you said management was way more than you expected, and that was ultimately one of the major things why you got out. But what were some of the things that maybe you'll miss about doing if you do stop doing hotels?
Honestly, working with the city and working with good employees and getting rid of the crackheads and the drug dealers was very fulfilling to me. Helping people and having my employees say, Sam, you wouldn't believe people are talking about your hotel all over town. They're talking about how much better it is. That was so much fun. And I was just there this last weekend to say goodbye to my employees, and I gave them all money and I'm going to send them Christmas cards. It was really fun working with these people, fixing up the rooms. My business partner, one of the reasons he compliments me very well is he's very creative, but he's really good at saving money. I'm more of the driver, get shiz done, go 100 miles an hour, make sure the business plan is solid, and just get shiz done. And he's more gets in the minutia of, well, let's get 20 quotes. Let's figure out how to save money. We actually got new furniture from a friend of ours who owns a hotel in Albuquerque. We got 30 something rooms of basically brand new furniture from a way nice Hilton hotel for $700.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Wow.
because they were giving it away.
That's
So
amazing.
that all the credit goes to Lyndon. We saved like $30,000 on the boiler quote that he got just from going direct to the supplier, which I wouldn't have thought of. I don't have time for that crap. I think about doing deals and getting shiz done and the high level stuff. So, that's been really fun to see that place look so much better. Even with the blue paint job, it still looks so much better than it did. And having people tell us that they're so happy that the place is being turned around, and I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss going to the hotel and hanging out. And I ripped holes in the roof, and we have a funny story about that. I decided to see how many layers of flat roofing was up there because there was leaks everywhere.
Okay.
And I tore into it. Stupidly, I didn't check the weather report, the weather channel. And about an hour into it, and
Starts
six
raining.
feet hole above one of our rooms into it, severe thunderstorm came in. This was back in March. And so I have employees under the room holding buckets, just getting drenched with this water coming through the roof. Lyndon got pissed, was not happy with me. I'm like pouring tar on it and tarping. And so we've had some really funny experiences and fun things. I like working with my hands, so I just had a blast,
That's good.
making the place look a lot better.
That's good, man. Yeah, I remember you posting some photos of the the rain coming down.
I ended up jimmy rigging tarps and making water catches and piping the leaky water into the bathtubs and toilets, and it's still there today.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Well, we're getting short on time here, but I'm wondering, is there any stories that you haven't told us about this deal that are interesting? You kind of hinted towards maybe one of those stings was an interesting story, but I want to know, is there anything that we haven't talked about?
Yeah, let's see. Trying to think. So I was hiring a gal to work at the front desk, and we're walking around the hotel. It was kind of a funny story, not much to do with real estate investing. But there was a car in the parking lot. She's like, "Hey, my sister's car got stolen this morning." And that's her car. And these thugs are driving around. So I just walk up to them. I turn my video camera on my phone on, walked up to them. I'm like, "Hey dudes, what are you doing?" They're like, "Oh, we're just looking for Big Dave. He's this drug dealer we knew about who was going to get arrested later that day, unbeknownst to him."
Wow.
And so I'm video cameraing everyone in the car, get in the car. We had already called the cops. And so I got them high resolution video, everyone in the stolen car. They got pulled over and arrested later. The cops loved it. They're like, "We never get people doing this crap." And I just walked up to them, pretended like I was their buddy, and now they're in jail for grand theft auto or whatever.
That's awesome.
Hope they don't listen to this. Then they'll know who got them on video.
Well,
but
if they're in jail, I'm guessing they probably aren't getting podcast reception either.
yeah. But no, I think the best story, man, is just working with the city and getting those quarantine people in there, and taking care of them, providing meals and making crazy cash flow. And I would say the biggest lesson we learned, we thought we were above one of our main rules. So whenever we buy a deal, the only way we will buy the deal is if we have the rehab budget funded or raised up front, and if we have 6 months of working capital.
Okay.
Every deal we do, that's what we do, because it mitigates risk in a large way. This hotel, me and Lyndon are like, "Oh, we've got the cash, we've got the time, let's just pay cash for this deal, and we'll raise the money, or we'll bring in our own money, or do a refi later and pay for the rehab that way." And that's stupid, by the way. And that's what ultimately caused the stress. So when Lyndon's not sleeping at night, and when I'm stressed out because he's stressed out, the reason was we should have raised the rehab money up front.
Mm.
We shouldn't have broken our own rule, and we should have raised a 6-month working capital budget up front, even from our own funds. We should have put it in that hotel bank account, and we didn't. So that was the number one lesson learned. Lyndon's number one lesson learned was don't let Sam tear open a roof during a rainstorm.
I like how that's his lesson and not yours.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, let's not tear up any roofs anymore. I'm like, all right, fine.
That's
I'm not
good,
a roofer,
man.
I guess. But
so
yeah.
that's a great lesson learned to end here. I just want to thank you for sharing so open and candidly with all this. I just think there's so many takeaways beyond even being a real estate investor, just being a good human being that we take away from all this stuff today. So thanks for doing that, man. Thanks for sharing. And how can people get connected with you outside of just going and checking out your Recessionproof podcast?
Yeah. Podcast, you can email me, Sam at MFI Club. So that stands for Multifamily Investment Club. So Sam at mficlub.com, or shoot me a text at 801-995-2220. That's 801-995-2220. I guess you'll probably put it in your show notes, but
we'll put everything.
Facebook is good as well. Any way you want. I'm a broker, so we try to get our name out there any way we can.
Well, and what I love too, and we didn't even talk about today, is that you are also looking to partner with people and find deals. So if you want to learn how to find a good deal, all you got to do is connect with Sam, listen to his podcast. He's literally teaching you how to find deals, and recession-proof ones at that. And you can partner with a true professional like Sam Newell. So Sam, thanks for being on the show and helping our audience to conquer the world of investing.
Awesome, man. Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate you. And everybody keep listening to the Fearless Podcast.
All right. And the show notes for this one are fearlesskyle.com/Sam Newell. That's Newell. And as you can tell, Sam has a huge heart. He loves helping people. He wants to do deals with more people, and he wants to be able to help everyone get rich together. That's why he raises money and helps his investors. So if you want to get connected with Sam, all you have to do is go to our show notes and get connected with the guy who flipped a hotel. Like, how cool is that? So I think this was a learning experience for all of us. I know for me, like I said, I don't know if I want to touch a hotel, but let us know. Would you do this? Would you do this deal? Comment or write a review on the podcast. We want to hear from you. Thanks so much for joining in and conquering the world of investing with us. We'll talk to you soon.